Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing tonight, guys? Hope you guys are doing well, guys. I'm your host, Ashton Forbes. Tonight, we're talking zero-point energy. We are talking Salvatore Pais' patents. We're talking about science. We're talking about physics. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Big news. Super chats are now tax deductible, or what, tax-free? Tax-free. Trump made super chats tax-free. Would you look at that? Wow. Now the debunkers can be even more upset about your super chats that you guys give me. Thank you very much, by the way, to Timothy Foster for this super chat. And it looks like StreamYard fixed the issue. It's now showing your guys' names again. So, you know, shout out to StreamYard. Okay, guys, we've got an amazing show for you guys here tonight. And I'm just going to get, I think, right into it. There are a couple things I do want to bring up, though. I did speak with Jared Yates, just only privately. Turns out people are a little bit concerned about some of y'all because some of y'all fly off the handle a little bit. But whatever. I did learn that Friedwart Winterberg is actually, he has passed away. So the interview we watched about the TR3B the other day, related to Friedwart Winterberg, that was actually a couple of years ago that interview happened. It was re-uploaded. So that's the reason. I guess the other thing I do want to say is Jeremy Reese reached out to me in an email. I haven't responded yet about a truce. Sure, bro. Truce. Okay. I don't care. Yeah, truce with APEC. Fine. Truce with Jeremy Reese, Bernie, whoever else was upset. I don't really care. The reality of the situation is, guys, if you're not familiar with who I am, this is not my job. This is not my job. I'm a healthcare IT consultant. I've been doing my healthcare IT job for 20 years, and I've been doing it the entire time these last 2 years as well. My healthcare IT job pays me over 6 figures. It's a very well-paying job. This is just a side gig that I do. This is just an adventure that you're on with me in this process of discovery and learning. And so I don't really care. You know, I don't have time for drama, and I certainly don't have time to like sit on, do little chats where we all talk about our feelings and work it all out. I just don't care. I don't have time for any of that. So sure, you want a truce? Fine, great. I don't care. Here's the easiest way to not get on my bad side is just don't talk shit. Just don't talk shit. So anyway, sure, Jeremy, you got a truce. I don't care. Okay. Guys, big news. Actually, I want to watch something real quick with you guys before we do that. It's related to physics, related to consciousness. There's a story here somewhere. Where is it? Okay, where is it? Here? Okay, here we go. I think this is going to work. We're going to see, guys. Am I helping AI? No, my job has nothing to do with AI. I wish we used more AI. My job would be a lot easier, to be honest with you.
Of the Hindu's home. The Hindu was talking about the necessity of a background.
Okay, I want you guys to pay close attention to this. I want you to pay close attention to this because this is a story, a very short story, that explains why 0-point energy influencers like ourselves are just ahead of the game. We see the world in a different light. We see it in a different light. This is Alan Watts. Okay? Alan Watts. Here we go.
For the perception of any figure. So he said, against what background do you see those flowers? And he said, against the background of the hedge. And against what background do you see the hedge? He said, the background of the hills. And against what background do you see the hills? He said, the background of the sky. He said, and against what background do you see the sky? The Englishman fell silent. The Hindu said, it's the background of consciousness.
Chat, what do you see in the background of the sky? What do you see in the background of the sky? What do I see? I see 0-point energy. I see the fabric of the universe in the background of the sky. That's the difference between us and the classical physicists. When you ask them, what do you see in the background of the sky? Their answer is nothing. They don't see anything. There's nothing in the background of the sky. For us, we see the nature of the reality. We see the construct itself. We see the structure of the cosmos. Now, one other thing, we got a few housekeeping things we have to get through before we get to Sal's paper. I found another subreddit. It's not the debunker subreddit, called Flights, Facts, No Fiction. Huh. Why Ashton's MH370 vids are authentic and not CGI. Basically, it just says, I mean, pretty much stuff that I've already said. There's just no way. Like, there's zero chance that MH370 videos are CGI. None. It's just the technology wasn't there to make something look that realistic in 2014. CGI wasn't at that level. We didn't even have AI publicly available at that time. So I just wanted to point out this subreddit. If you are interested in Reddit, I don't promote or really think that I recommend anybody ever uses Reddit. But if you do, I recommend you go to this subreddit for MH370 instead of the debunker subreddit, which is called Airliner Abduction 2014. Now, as a side note, if you weren't sure that Reddit was compromised and that the debunkers are 100% bad faith, like 100% bad faith, they're not arguing in good faith, they never were, then all you need to know is they named their subreddit about the MH370 videos Airliner Abduction 2014. Has literally nothing to do with MH370. Doesn't even explain the point. Like, you couldn't name your subreddit anything more obscure than what they came up with. The Redditors are mentally ill nut jobs who have no connection to physical reality whatsoever. I don't mean this to put them down. That's literally what they are. They will believe literally anything you tell them that aligns with their preconceived notions with no doubt whatsoever. And the way they do research is the dumbest shit ever. There was this guy, Warren, in my replies, trying to debunk the video of the boat getting zapped yesterday. Why? Why would you try to debunk a boat getting shot out of the sky, zapped out of and 11 people died? And the weirdest part is what he was trying to debunk. He's trying to debunk that it was nighttime. Why? What is mentally wrong with you that you just feel this compulsion that you have to try to prove somebody wrong about some minuscule thing that doesn't even matter at all? And here's the craziest, worst part about these nut jobs. It is nighttime in that video where that boat's getting zapped. It is nighttime. Do you know what his evidence is for why it's not nighttime? Because he Googled an article that says it was done in the morning. I'm pointing this out. The reason why I'm shitting on this guy is because I need you guys to understand how fucking stupid these people are. These Redditors are so dumb, I don't know how they even tie their shoes in the morning. Oh, because it was morning, it can't be nighttime? Here's a spoiler for you dumbass Redditors. It's dark in the morning. Oh, wow. Sometimes when people talk about morning, they mean like pre-dawn. So finding an article that says it happened in the morning means it must be light. I mean, how stupid are you people? So don't ever, ever, ever trust anything you hear from these people because they're not experts. They just Google shit and they put connections together that don't even fit. And then they proclaim that it's their inherent knowledge and expertise that got to that point. It blows my mind how stupid people are. Anyway, okay. Sorry, that's all I'm going to rant about on this, on the Redditors. I just absolutely just blows me away, honestly, how dumb they are. Okay, one other thing I want to show here before we get into this. This is a paper by Edward Teller. What does this paper say? Space propulsion by fusion in a magnetic dipole. That's what that paper says right there. 1991, space propulsion by fusion in a magnetic dipole. So, I mean, when people are talking to me about what my scientific papers, my research or whatever, my scientific papers, my research that I'm digging into is literally the people that made the atomic bomb. Literally the people that made the hydrogen bomb. People that made the hydrogen bomb. Forget the atomic bomb, hydrogen bomb. It's the smartest scientists and Black Project engineers on the entire planet. Those are the people whose papers that I push. Because they know the answers. It's just right there, hiding in the open. It always has been. Okay, next thing. Joe Rogan. What the hell is going on with Joe Rogan? Listen to this.
If that's how they travel, I'd be very disappointed. If that's how they travel, I'd be very disappointed. They just shoot through the sky. Well, it takes months.
Well, if it slows down,
I know, but I'm looking for portals. I'm looking for, I mean, an advanced civilization that visits us. I don't want the advanced Vikings.
Right.
Yeah. I want the advanced scientists from the 21st century.
Open up the portal.
If that's how they travel, I'd be very disappointed.
So he's talking about in this clip, he'll be disappointed if it turns out Avi Loeb is correct. If the aliens are flying around on the space rocks, we're going to be really disappointed because it's stupid. Well, good news, Joe Rogan. The aliens are definitely not flying around on space rocks. I can go ahead and say I'm 100% confident about that. Unless there's primitive Flintstones aliens that are out there LARPing or whatever, then maybe. But no. It turns out that we have teleportation technology. How? I'm not here to tease you. Wormholes are the same thing as quantum entanglement. Boom. Boom. Wormholes are the same thing as quantum entanglement. Whew, drop the mic. Now you wonder, what is spooky action at a distance? It's a wormhole. There you go. Let that sink in. Absorb that information for a minute. Absorb that information. And what is the physical principle that we call this? We call it ER equals EPR. There you are. So I'm not going to rant about Joe Rogan. I really don't give a crap. I just think it's weird that like he's constantly saying the same narratives that I'm saying and yet not inviting me on the show to just talk about this. And yet who has he had on? Basically everybody else, every random person. I mean, he was talking to Jesse Michaels recently, Danny Jones. He's talking to these dudes about UFO stuff and ancient history, weird things like that. I mean, okay, whatever, man. You do you, brother. But as I've said before, I don't even want to do, I'm kind of overdoing nice interviews with these people. If you haven't already reached out to me for an interview in the past, then the next interview we do is probably going to be, if it's a new person I haven't been on, I'm happy to do the contentious interview. Why do you think the videos are fake? What leads you to believe that? You know? Because we're at the point now where I'm not here to be nice to people. We're here to just shock people into waking the hell up. Shocking people into waking the hell up. One last clip before we get into this. Oh, and I did see somebody in the beginning of this. I didn't really take a look at all the clips or all the comments in here, but somebody asked, they want to send me something. I don't want your shit. I don't want your videos and I don't want your photos. Okay? I'm not a photo analysis expert or video analysis expert. I'm not here to validate your experiences. That's not why I'm here. I mean, it's great if that happens for you. I'm happy for you. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm not here to solve your life's mysteries. I'm simply here on my own journey. And if you get something out of that, that's great. Thank you for watching and thank you for supporting. Okay. Now, here's the last thing before we jump into this. Alex Jones. This is another one that I've been kind of suspicious about because I was on Alex Jones. I was on Alex Jones like a year and a half ago, and he kind of never reached back out again, and I wasn't really sure. Interview was kind of weird, so I'm never really sure what his opinion was. But in the since I've been on with Alex Jones, 0 point energy has taken off. 0 point energy has taken off. And even now, InfoWars is talking about 0 point energy. So let's go ahead and listen to this clip here.
Has weapons nobody knows about. Yeah, I remember Trump said that we control space and time. We have super weapons. What's your view on that? Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for taking my call.
Welcome.
Yeah, Trump talks about the weapons that nobody understands and won't believe we have. They're sort of our ace in the hole if we get into a conflict over Taiwan or something like that with China. The entire Chinese Navy would be obliterated by weapons that they wouldn't recognize we had. But there's a kid named Ashton Forbes who's always on 3 times a week talking about the disappearance of MH370 and how that involves our CIA and military involved in teleporting aircraft out of the sky to another location like Diego Garcia.
Yeah, and real footage has caught that. We should get Ashton Forbes on. In fact, get him on, guys.
But what it reveals is that we've been hiding the fact that we have fusion reactors for 30 years. So fission is an antiquated concept. When people talk about the AI centers using compact fission reactors, that's ludicrous. We have a solution that's better than fission reactions. We don't have to worry about meltdowns.
And have you noticed they're now building all these secret facilities, quote, for national security data centers? It's not really that. What my inside sources is actually this new advanced technology.
Right, but they're going to tell us it's something that it's not. They're not going to reveal what it actually is. Hal Puthoff is on video in 1994 telling investors that when we have a resurgence in nuclear power, we're actually going to have the 0 point energy generators hidden in the nuclear plants, and we'll tell people they're nuclear plants, but they're actually 0 point energy plants.
Chat, this is the greatest day ever. Wow. Chat, we are influencing people. Holy shit. Holy shit. People are watching our content. They're watching the Hal Puthoff clip that we put out there. They're watching it and they're absorbing the information and they are regurgitating it and they are spreading it. This is what I'm talking about. When people are like, want to know why are we winning? This is why we're winning. Can you name a UFO, any UFO personality that's got people regurgitating details like this of them? No, nobody. This is like literally building a whole movement. I mean, the fact that he's like, they're basically just lying about the fission reactors and the nuclear reactors. We got to bring nuclear power back, guys. What does that mean? Show me these nuclear reactors. What do they look like now? They certainly don't look like the same reactors we were using in the 80s. And then we have video clips of Hal Puthoff. Video clips of Hal Puthoff just saying that, hey, guys, we can't give people free energy devices. So instead, you know what we'll do? We'll just replace the old power generators with new ones for the energy companies, and we just won't tell anybody. Because we don't have to. Why do we have to tell anybody? There's no laws around it. We just produce energy cheaper. It doesn't matter how, right? And we'll just sell it to the people at the same price. And we'll just absorb the savings. Right? That's business. That's business. Don't worry about him saying kid or whatever, guys. It's just because I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful and young. So they assume that I must be a kid, even though I'm actually a 42-year-old man who's worked in healthcare for 20 years. That's fine. I don't take offense to it.
No, I agree with you on that. And we know the equations have been around for 50 years. We know that they've built a lot of it and then suppressed it. So how do we know the Russians and Chi-Coms don't have this?
So actually, that's a great question. Holy shit. See, Alex Jones and I can maybe have a good discussion here. How do we know the Russians and the Chinese don't have this technology? Now, this is speculative. I don't obviously know the answer to this question, but we can kind of infer it based on what happened with the MH370 situation. Obviously, the United States has the most power. Why? Because we're literally teleporting an airplane in front of the Chinese. If the Chinese had teleportation technology, they would never let that happen, right? But that doesn't mean that they don't understand the basics of it. China and Russia definitely understand scalar physics, etc. They definitely understand it. I mean, Tom Bearden was talking about it in the 80s, and he was even saying that Russia was ahead of us. It was the USSR back then. So these other countries, they understand it. They are building these same types of weapons. No question. It's a matter of how far advanced you are, though. It's not a situation where once you figure this out, you're on the peak. There's varying levels of this technology. The same way where just because you've invented a computer doesn't mean you've invented AI. Right? Just because you've invented a computer doesn't mean you've invented AI. It took 70 years for computers to get to the point where they're at now. Same idea is this zero-point energy technology. Now, the reason why it's scary is because you hit a certain level and now you can just wipe out the whole planet at will with the push of a button. And I'm not talking about blowing up cities. I'm talking about like literally destabilize the whole planet. Right? Let's see what else it says here.
Well, I'm sure we've been monitoring what's been going on with them. We don't want that technology to get in other people's hands. That's why MH370 was disappeared, because those people were defecting to China with the technology and the free-scale semiconductors that make zero-point energy possible. So the proliferation is something we've been watching very closely. That's why we deny that we have any advances in this field. Anytime somebody comes up with free energy, that patent is denied and those people are disappeared. So anyway, it's just something we really need to dive into, that Trump knows something's up, but I don't think he's getting the full story on the capability.
Yeah, people don't know. There's actually U.S. laws on disruptive technology.
Okay, well, I think that's you guys get the point, right? There are laws. We've got the Invention Secrecy Act. We had the Atomic Secrecy Act. The other reason why I wanted to show this is because of that whole point about China. Salvatore Pais has been contacting me. You know, we've been in touch for 2 years. He's clearly very concerned about China figuring out this technology, figuring out his patents, and because they're going to catch up. And even Trump the other day was saying that China's like 5 years away from us. So my personal opinion is we should listen to what Trump says regarding these other countries catching up, because I think he's being more truthful about this technology than any president in history. Obama never spoke about any of this stuff, ever. And Trump's out here talking about, we got weapons nobody understands. We can manipulate time and space. We're way far ahead of everybody. So if Trump says something like China's catching up, we should probably assume it's true. Now, I don't really like to take people at face value, especially in the government. But I'm just telling you, we don't really have any better options at this point. Okay. Let me see. I think I have one or two more things here. Let me take a look. Oh yeah, here we go. One more thing. This is just a little joke meme I got here for you guys. This is woke disclosure, guys, personified. There you go. This is the last thing. Here's a little woke disclosure. Please tell us about the aliens. Oh wait, what happened? Where'd it go? Chat. Not like this. Not like this. Here it is. Okay. Please, sir. Please tell us about the aliens, Mr. Government. Please, sir. It's like, one of the things I realized is that a lot of people are literally just waiting for daddy government to tell them what to think. They're literally just they're not going to believe any of the science, physics, etc. until daddy government tells them. Even if you show them and review a scientific paper in detail, they will not get it. And so that's what we're going to do right now. Salvatore Pais asked me to post the two papers. We're going to at least review one. We may review the other as well, depending on the time. He asked me to post these two papers before our interview. Now, I'm not trying to cut down Jared Yates here, because I actually think he's a great researcher. But I asked him about Salvatore Pais, and he's like, it doesn't work. It's not work, whatever. It works. It's 100% real. Salvatore Pais's patents are 100% real. You can tell from the context, and you can tell from talking to the guy. This is not a guy that is speculating about technology. He's not speculating. He's seen it with his eyes. He knows it works. He knows these effects work. If anything, he's holding back in his patents, as we're going to review here, in his papers. He's holding back. He doesn't say all the exact frequencies that you need to use for the resonance effects. Probably because it's connected to nuclear weapons. And I say that because resonance is heavily related to nuclear weapons, especially in fusion detonations. So if Sal wants me to review a paper, there's probably a really good reason why. And now tonight, I'm going to show you guys together. I read this paper that I'm about to pull up here twice in the last 2 days. And it's not that long. It's only like 8 pages. So this is going to be one of the rare times where we actually go through the entire scientific paper, start to finish, and I'm going to explain to the best of my ability. Before I do that, the last thing I want to say is just a personal note. When I read this paper again yesterday, I just had like a holy shit moment. And the biggest holy shit moment was I understood practically every single thing in the scientific paper, like 99% of it. Whereas 2 years ago, it was like Greek to me. And so I went ahead and I said, man, I wonder how many live streams I've done. I want you guys to guess without looking. How many live streams do you think that I've done in the last 2 years since we started live streaming? Go ahead, put a number or a range, whatever you want in the chat right now. How many live streams do you think that we've done MH370X together? The answer is 355. 355 live streams. I couldn't even believe it. 355. Wow. The answer is I love doing this. I love doing this, and we're going to keep on doing it. So 355 live streams, and we're going to have potentially another 355 to go. Okay, guys, let's do it, baby. Room temperature superconducting system for use on a hybrid aerospace undersea craft. So this isn't just Salvatore Pais's room temperature superconductor patent. This is him integrating the superconductor patent into his transmedium craft, basically his UFO craft. It's him explaining how the two concepts go together. Wow, that's interesting. So let's go ahead and start by reading just the introduction. This is U.S. Navy engineer, current active Navy engineer, Salvatore Cesar Pais. The subject matter of this paper describes the design of an active room temperature superconductor to be incorporated within a hybrid aerospace undersea craft, described in a recent paper. It is envisioned that electrically charged outer surfaces of this craft, which under accelerated vibration allow for inertial mass modification. He's talking about weight reduction, anti-gravity, are the room temperature superconducting type. A theoretical argument is presented for achieving room temperature superconductivity in a current-carrying special composite metal wire. This concept enables the transmission of electrical power without any losses. That's what superconductivity does, which leads to the design and development of novel energy generation and harvesting devices with important benefits to civilization. So right there, he's talking about fusion and free energy microchip type stuff. That's what superconductivity opens the door up for. Why? Why does superconductivity open the door up for these concepts? Efficiency. A superconductive system has no loss of energy due to heat. None. That's what makes it superconductive. No resistance. So now you're going to have an extremely efficient energy transfer system. Extremely efficient. Simply put, room temperature superconductors can be enabled in a current carrying special composite wire, which is abruptly vibrated by mechanical or electrical means. The wire is composed of a core insulator with a thin coating of normal metal, like aluminum, of a thickness on the order of the London penetration depth. What he means there is a very thin metal coating an insulator. given an externally applied magnetic field. For the electrically driven vibration, the wire is coated with lead zinc titanate, which is, I believe, a piezoelectric, PZT ceramic, or any other material in which the piezoelectric effect can be induced. So what he's saying here is, here's the answer. I'm just going to give you the answer at the beginning of this. How do you achieve room temperature superconductivity in anything? Anything. Vibration. Vibration. We're not vibrating the electrons. We're vibrating the wire itself. Vibrate the wire. You vibrate the wire and you can induce room temperature, high temperature superconductivity. No liquid nitrogen bullshit to freeze your thing down to 0. This is a completely different perspective on superconductivity than conventional physics. Conventional physics says we have to cool our magnet to 0 using liquid nitrogen, and then we'll see these superconductive effects. And some superconductors, they say high temperature superconductors, they're still super, super cold. Salvatore Pais is talking about superconductors that are 300 Kelvin. 300 Kelvin. Room temperature. What we're feeling right here. So Salvatore Pais's patent is a completely novel method for producing high temperature, room temperature superconductivity. And he says there's 2 different ways you can do it. You can do it mechanically, literally shaking the wire really fast, or you can pulse it with a current. You can, if you set up a piezoelectric material around it as the coating, then you can pulse it with a current and it will achieve the same effect. So what's Sal saying? He's saying there's a shortcut. You don't actually have to physically vibrate the wire. He's saying if you put a piezoelectric material in there, you can basically achieve the same effect using the piezoelectric wire plus a pulsed current. So let's dig in through these concepts. Oh, I think there's one more thing actually before he says that. Okay. And then he says, and since the room temperature supercurrent may be generated along the metal insulator surface boundary, this wire configuration may be termed an unconventional superconductor. Current is pulsed through the wire at the resonance vibration frequency. There's that word, resonance. Resonance. Where do we know resonance from? The photoelectric effect. Einstein's Nobel Prize, his biggest blunder, not realizing that the photoelectric effect is not quantum packets of photons. It's a resonance effect. A resonance effect means you can have a very strong interaction or a very weak interaction depending on how your 2 waves intersect, how they meet, how they interact with one another. They can either interact very strongly with one another or interact very weakly with one another. And then lastly, in the intro, he says, it is theoretically observed that a superconducting charge carrier mass is inversely proportional to the vibration frequency squared, and that dimagnetism exhibited by the room temperature superconductor is enhanced with increasing frequency of the vibration. So 3 more concepts, then we're going to dig deep into these in a second. 1, where is the superconductor? Why is it an unconventional superconductor? Because the superconductivity occurs on the boundary between the wire, the insulator, and the metal coating around it. So you imagine a cylindrical device. In fact, we might have to get Microsoft Paint going up here, right? We're going to have to show, we're going to do it this way. Remove that. Stop share. Okay. So we take our cylindrical device. How do I make a cylinder, chat? How do we make a cylinder? This is going to be pretty painful. I'm not going to lie to you guys, okay? We've got our cylinder, right? So we're going to coat our cylinder. We're going to coat this bad boy right, in metal. And what's going to happen? We're going to get superconductivity is going to occur along the boundary of our superconductor, along the boundary. Okay. Now, hopefully you guys love my MS Paint because we're going to come back to this in a minute, but not right now. Okay. So let's go back to the other one. Where is it? This one. Is this one? Wait, where did it go? Chat. Not cool, man. Where's my share screen? Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. Now let's dig into the science. Let's dig into the details. So just if you missed this and you just joined for whatever reason, the answer to high temperature superconductivity is vibrating the medium, vibrating the wire itself. Vibrating the wire itself. Okay. A room temperature superconductor. We're going to skip through the room temperature, the superconductor, but here he says 300 degrees Kelvin is 25 degrees Celsius. Extremely warm. Okay. Used for the electrically charged surfaces of our, let's just call it UFO. Such room temperature superconductors can give rise to very high Q factors. Q factors, namely the ratio of energy stored divided by energy lost. So what he's saying here is, again, efficiency. Why is superconductivity so important? Because it allows for extremely high efficiencies. We can store a huge amount of energy relative to the amount of energy that we're losing, which greatly modifies the quantum vacuum state energy density in close proximity to the craft as to generate macroscopic quantum effect necessary for inertial mass reduction and hence propulsion of the craft. So what he's saying right here is that the superconductors, the high temperature superconductivity that we're going to induce by vibrating this is manipulating the 0 point energy. It's manipulating the vacuum. When you do this, you're literally manipulating the vacuum. You're manipulating the medium. And if you manipulate the medium, you can generate macroscopic quantum coherence, which would be a macroscopic quantum effects. And you can manipulate the vacuum energy density state. Now, when we talk about manipulating vacuum energy density, what are we talking about? We're talking about gravity waves. We're talking about gravity waves. What does manipulating the energy density do? The energy density determines gravity, determines the distribution of the movement in space-time. That's what gravity is. So right here, we're only one paragraph in, we've already connected this high temperature, room temperature superconductor to manipulating gravity, manipulating the quantum vacuum. Boom. And manipulating inertia. Now, we're going to go through the math. The math is going to check out. Now that I know physics enough, I know it does, but here we go. So this is going to be an extremely disruptive technology that can change the whole paradigm shift in science and technology. The only reason I'm reading this is because this actually explains that Sal knows the implications of this. You don't write a paragraph like this up here at the top unless you know that this stuff is real and you know the implications of it. He knows what this technology leads to. At the end of this, he says the technologies. So hang on to your butts. It is important to realize that internal heating within any system enclosure can be greatly reduced by room temperature superconducting wiring, which allows for lossless transmission of electrical power to its subsystems. Now, you imagine our plasma orbs. Why are our plasma orbs in the MH370 videos superconducting? Well, it keeps the temperature down. If they can transfer electricity superconductively, then you have no loss due to heat. One of the most important aspects of these fusion orbs is keeping the temperature low, not keeping it high, keeping it low. Those orbs aren't white hot. They're like the same temperature as the sky. They're room temperature. So whoever figured out how to make those orbs, they figured out room temperature superconductivity. In fact, we're only a couple paragraphs into this, and I'm now starting to get worried. because this isn't just like a little bit close to the orbs. He's explaining how the orbs work. He's explaining how the orbs in the MH370 video work. So Sal's already said he didn't make the orbs, but he knows what those orbs are. He must. And if you don't believe, just hang tight. There are 3 parameters which affect superconductivity: temperature, current density, and the externally applied magnetic field strength. Control of the motion of the electrons via vibration or spin of charged matter subject to rapid acceleration transients, aka a highly nonlinear nature, may lead to the achievement of room temperature superconductivity. Now, this is crazy because what he's saying here is, what do all these things have in common? Temperature, current density, and externally applied magnetic field. They all are related to the movement, collective movement of the electrons. They're related to the movement of electrons. When you go, Ashton, what are you talking about, movement of the electrons? I'm talking about static electricity. When you rub your head with a balloon and then the balloon makes all your hair stick out, you're ripping the electrons. You're making an asymmetry. You're pulling the electrons off and you create this asymmetry, and now you get this attractive force. What Sal is saying is that superconductivity is directly related to the controlled motion of the electrons. And this is wild. Yes, drift velocity, Pat B in the chat. See, we're going to be connecting this to our boy Paul Thibodeau pretty soon here. Some of you are already getting ahead of the game because now you're realizing, wait a minute. If superconductivity is connected to the movement of the electrons, then what does drift velocity do to it? What does drift velocity do? If, for example, copper has a very low drift velocity, meaning the electrons move very, very slowly, but not graphene. Graphene has a super high drift velocity, which means the electrons move super quick. So could this be a factor in us creating superconductivity? Hang tight. Hang tight, chat. Oh, what just happened there? Okay, there we go. So at present time, it is believed. Here we go. Yeah, and then he says, especially if the charged matter is inhomogeneous. Now, what does he mean by that? He means not the same everywhere. To me, what that means is non-equilibrium. Non-equilibrium, especially if you've separated your positive and minus charges. If you've separated your positive and minus charges, then it's going to be even easier to achieve room temperature superconductivity. Well, damn, chat. You know why that's wild? What is plasma? What is plasma? Plasma is a separation of charges. So theoretically, plasma should be really easy to achieve high temperature superconductivity, according to what Sal's saying right here. Because he's saying that superconductivity just has to do with controlled motion of the electrons. Well, shit, chat. When we're looking at those plasma orbs, there's a giant bubble in there of those plasma orbs. You can see this heat signature inside of that. I wonder if the electrons are clustered and grouped together in some kind of quantum coherence. At the present time, it is believed that the mechanism of superconductivity can be either induced by bipolarions or Cooper pairing. The important realization is that independent of the physical mechanism, the key to observe superconductivity is strong electron lattice coupling. Strong electron lattice interaction can be obtained from abrupt accelerated vibration of the wire, thereby providing justification for one of our arguments. So what does he mean when he says lattice electron? Let's go back to our thing here, chat. Hold on. Where is it? It's MS Paint time. So we've got our lattice grid, okay? I'm going to just make little circles here. We've got our grid. It's not going to be great. Don't at me. Here's our grid, okay? These are going to be our ions. These are our positively charged ions. Now, what we're going to do is we've got our electrons. We've got our little electrons, right? And if we can couple these things, then we can make a little highway for them, right? We make a little highway, and they're just zipping through our little highway. So when we're talking about this coupling, we're talking about the interaction between these electrons and the grid. We're talking about the interaction between electrons and the grid. And if we have no resistance, if those electrons can just shoot through the grid, then we've got superconductivity, no collisions. But if these electrons start bouncing and hitting all these ions, then we're going to get resistance, we're going to get heat getting formed, and we're not going to have superconductivity. That's what we're talking about there. And don't worry, we're going to talk about Cooper pairs in just a minute. Chill out, chat. Chill out. We're going to come back to this exact graph here. What if, yes. Okay. What if all you need to do, let's make this a little bigger as well. In order to make a special composite metallic wire be superconductive at room temperature is to make it abruptly vibrate while running a pulsed current through it, just like plucking a guitar string, dung, 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 intermittently. The current must be pulsed for maximum effect. Moreover, the current is pulsed through the wire at the resonant vibration frequency. Booyah! Exactamundo. How wild is that quote right there? What have I been saying about 0-point energy and free energy and all these free energy microchips? It's like plucking a guitar string. You're moving it out. We're stuck in equilibrium. You rip it out of equilibrium. You're manipulating space-time. So right here, he's at least conceptually connecting the idea of the quantum vacuum and this energy in the quantum vacuum. And how do we tap into it? The resonant frequency. Hang tight, Walter Ramjet. We're going to get to it. This has got 8 pages on it. We're only on page 2. Okay. So it's possible to envision that we could use this functionality to create a hybrid craft, a transmedium craft. There's your buzzword for my UFO folks out there. You want a transmedium craft? That's literally what Salvatore Pais is talking about right here. The hybrid craft would move with great ease through air, space, and water by being enclosed in a vacuum plasma bubble sheath. Enclosed in a plasma bubble sheath? That is exactly what is happening with the orbs in the MH370 videos. They are exactly being held in a plasma bubble sheath due to the coupled effects of the electromagnetic field, induced air-water particles repulsion, and the vacuum polarization. So what he's saying here is what's going to happen is because you're manipulating space-time with this plasma, it's actually creating a bubble between it and the air. It's creating a bubble between it and the water. So it's created a self-contained bubble that you could say couples it, connects it to this air, where now the air is just kind of flowing around it, and the water just flows around it as well. I mean, if you're into UFOs, this is the best explanation I've ever heard for how the UFOs are able to go transmedium through water, through air. It's definitely connected to electricity and electromagnetism, no question. And he says this transmedium craft is conical. It's a cone-like configuration with an elliptical cross-section similar in geometry to a hypersonic glide vehicle. What? Hold up. Where are my sounds? Vehicle. That's pretty specific, dude. Especially because you were just talking about plasma sheaths, and that's literally how we got our hypersonics to work, is plasma bubbles, plasma sheaths. So he says it's a cone, basically, that's got an elliptical cross-section. And this is very similar to what Paul Sids was explaining in his hypersonic designs, where we can have this second stage hypersonic vehicle that can go to orbit. There's way too much crossover right here. Controlled motion of electrically charged matter from solid to plasma can result in high-intensity electromagnetic field flux, which can modify the energy density of the vacuum energy state in close proximity to the craft, resulting in local vacuum modification, and hence inertial mass reduction of the moving craft. So now what he's saying is that the plasma itself in this superconducting system is interacting with the 0 point energy. It's literally interacting with the 0 point energy. And in my head, I thought this was crazy until I thought about it some more. And I thought, wait a minute. Let's say we have our plasma, which is just positive charge, and we take our negative charge and we rip it free. So now we have negative charge over here, and we got a lot of positive charge over here. But wait. The quantum vacuum, the 0 point energy, is just generally neutral. We have this sea of energy, but it's just neutral, right? Everything's canceled out. But what happens if we were to take a very strong positive or minus charge and have it interact with that 0 point energy? Theoretically, this energy that's in an equilibrium, the negative aspects of it would want to attract to the positive aspects of the plasma. And the positive aspects of the 0 point energy would want to attract to the negative aspects of the plasma. So what we could see here is that there's a real reason why this non-equilibrium plasma might modify the vacuum. It's going to modify the vacuum because it's just electromagnetism. And the vacuum is generally neutral. But if you take something that's not neutral and put it near our neutral body, you can cause action. You can cause something to occur. Just like if I take the balloon, the balloon doesn't attract to my head, and I rub the balloon against my head, now there's an attractive force. It was neutral. My hair was neutral until I rubbed the balloon on it. Now, all of a sudden, my hair wants to stick and try to connect to the balloon. This is the same concept as the 0 point energy. Imagine my hair is the 0 point energy. The balloon is the superconductor. The superconducting plasma system is pulling the 0 point energy. It's modifying the vacuum. It's polarizing it. It's polarizing the vacuum. Whew, okay. I'm just going to call it transmedium craft, utilizes microwave-induced vibration within a resonant annular cavity whose outer surface is electrically charged while being vibrated. Okay, so vibration is the key. The manner and effectiveness with which the microwave energy couples with the resonant cavity wall is called the cavity Q factor. So this ratio is between 10 to the 4 and 10 to the 9. I'm sorry, what? Guys, the Q factor is 10 to the 4 to 10 to the 9 in terms of the energy stored versus the energy lost. That's a huge number. 10 to the 4 is 10,000. A factor of 10,000 of storage energy compared to energy lost. I mean, these Q factors are beyond anything that anyone's really conceived of at this point. But if you have a superconducting system with no electrical losses, now your over unity can pretty much just go really beyond anything. And it says here, there's this huge difference, right? 5 orders of magnitude, 10 to the 4 versus 10 to the 9. So what's the difference? Depending on whether or not you use ordinary metal, like just aluminum, that will get you a Q factor of 10 to the 4. But if you use a cryogenically cooled superconducting material, such as YBCO superconductors, then you can potentially achieve 10 to the 9. Well, that's pretty weird. Why? Because Eugene Potklinov and Ning Li in the 90s were working on spinning YBCO superconductors, and they were observing mass reduction. They were spinning YBCO superconductors, and they were observing mass reduction. This paper explains why that is. Why? I'll just explain it right now. I've just learned it from this paper right now. Why was Eugene Plekhanov and Ning Li's experiments spinning their superconductors? Why was that producing anti-gravity? Because they were controlling the motion of the electrons. Controlling the motion of the electrons was interacting with the 0-point energy. It was interacting with the 0-point energy. The weight reduction effect was relatively small, but it existed. So then it was just a matter of how do you amplify? How do you scale it up? How do you increase the efficiency? Optimal vibration of the craft's electrically charged surface can be achieved using high electromagnetic energy emitters operating at 100 terahertz and higher frequencies. Think of a confined photoelectric effect. Wow. Let's think about a confined photoelectric effect. What is a confined photoelectric effect? We're now all smart 0-point energy scientists, and we have researched the photoelectric effect. So the photoelectric effect, I just take a metal, right? I've got this metal here. Let's just presume that this little Swiss Army knife is my metal here, and I'm going to shoot light. I'm going to shoot light at my metal. And what happens? The electrons rip off of it. So he says, imagine a confined photoelectric effect, meaning now your electron shoots out, but it has nowhere to go. It's got nowhere to go. Now your light hits the metal and it just bounces somewhere else and hits another metal and it just keeps bouncing around over and over and over again. Your light just keeps bouncing and hitting metals and just shooting electrons out everywhere it's going. If you confine your photoelectric effect, I'll tell you what that sounds like to me. It sounds like a nuclear bomb. Sounds like a nuclear bomb to me. Nuclear bombs are all about resonance and amplifying your effect. And now you're saying, oh, we're going to confine our photoelectric effect in a space, and we're just going to have it bounce around and shoot, and electrons are going to be ripping free everywhere. We're going to create a plasma. Just like Pat B just mentioned, we're going to create a plasma. Okay, let's keep going. Moreover, this transmedium craft can have its skin can have embedded polycrystalline materials which strongly exhibit the piezoelectric effect. So piezoelectric effect we know all about. We have our crystalline structure, and if I squeeze that crystalline structure, it separates the positive and minus charges. That's what the piezoelectric effect is. The piezoelectric effect is if you take your crystal structure and you squeeze it, this is separating a little bit, separating the positive and minus charges, therefore creating electricity. So he's saying you can actually coat the skin of your craft in these tiny crystalline structures that have a piezoelectric effect on them. And then when the electrical current is passed through them, you are going to potentially get this effect. You're going to have this effect that manipulates space-time. It says, alternatively, the charged skin can be vibrated with frequency sound generators. So again, these are the two ways that we can do it. Mechanically, with sound, have the sound just vibrate the thing, or we can pulse a current through it if it's piezoelectric. So, I mean, holy shit. I don't know if people don't understand this scientific paper, but I think this is probably the most detailed review of this scientific paper anybody on the planet has ever done. Now we know there's two different ways we can achieve this high temperature superconductivity. One, we can use sound to literally physically vibrate the wire or the shell, if you want to think of it like that. Or we can hook it up with piezoelectric crystals, and then we can pulse a current through it. Either of these will cause the same effect that we're trying to achieve here. There's more to come, guys. The high energy, high frequency electromagnetic radiation responsible for their inertial mass reduction produces repulsive electromagnetic energy field while in the Earth's atmosphere, thereby repelling air molecules in the path of the hybrid craft's ascent and flight. This part right here made me wonder. Is the reason why we see the jet in front of the orbs because we see some kind of repulsive effect? Or is the repulsive effect simply why the air just kind of moves around the plasma seamlessly? I don't quite know the answer to that. Some of this stuff is I'm going to have to ask Salvatore Pais to make sure I understand what he's trying to imply. So basically he's saying that this is going to cause a gravitational effect. This is going to cause a gravitational effect. He says a plurality of microwave antennas in the electromagnetic spectrum range of about 300 megahertz to 300 gigahertz can be arranged within the annular duct resonant cavity, which would be guarded by a Faraday cage. Now, this part is weird. I don't know if I didn't read this before, but here we go. Oh, this is I missed this part right here as well. So right here, how does it say? Consequently, once in orbital space, due to local vacuum polarization, a repulsive gravity effect, negative pressure can be observed just from the first law of thermodynamics. What is Sal saying right here? He's saying if you remove the pressure, what happens? You get work. You get work. This is basic thermodynamics. I explained this yesterday on an interview with Chad and Sherry of Investigate Earth, which should be going live later. But I'm going to explain it once again. I think I said it in our live, is that let's imagine there's some resistance on me, right? There's a pressure on me. This pressure is pushing me back, right? What happens if I remove this pressure? What if I apply a negative pressure? If I apply a negative pressure, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to move forward if I apply a negative pressure. A positive pressure is going to move me backward. A negative pressure is going to move me forward. Now, what's a negative pressure? A negative pressure is just removing the pressure that's in your way. So what Sal's saying here is that this superconductive electrically charged shell on our craft produces a negative pressure. And that's going to cause us to move forward. It's going to give us work. It has to. It's basic electrical engineering. It must, just based on the laws of thermodynamics. And this is exactly what Paul Thibodeau is saying. Paul Thibodeau is saying it's like removing a weight that's on a balloon. If you remove a brick that's on a balloon, it's going to expand. You're getting work. What you did, all you did was remove the weight that was pressuring down the balloon. An auxiliary propulsion unit, possibly a plasma compression fusion generator, would provide the initial thrust and electrical power generation. What? An auxiliary propulsion unit, a plasma compression fusion? I mean, this is a compact fusion reactor is what he's talking about here. A compact fusion reactor would provide the initial thrust and electrical power generation. And then, after that, then the gravitational effect will take over. I mean, that's the orbs. Remember, the orbs in the MH370 video, when they first approach the plane, the black jets are only behind them. Just like a conventional propulsion, like you're just shooting something out behind you. But by the time the orbs are spinning around the plane, right before the plane, they zap the plane, the black lines are only in front of the orbs, not behind them anymore. Almost like they're charging up. It seems here like what Sal is saying is there might be two forms of propulsion at play. A conventional fusion reactor that can store up the initial energy needed, and then you switch it over to the gravitational and you just have it floating along, getting pulled forward via the vacuum polarization that the superconductor produces. Wow. Okay. And he also says, if the cavity that you produce, which is just an empty shell, zone, is filled with a noble gas, the microwave energy collisions with the gas and solid will induce a plasma state of matter, further augmenting the oscillatory vibrations experienced by the cavity wall, thereby creating a highly nonlinear environment, which will intensify the Prigogine effect. This will enable the coherence of physical vacuum fluctuations in the proximity of the outer mold line skin. In this matter, assuring a high degree of vacuum polarization. Wow. Now he's like, hey, okay, we got this cavity, and you're going to just like put some sound or electromagnetic waves through it and have it just bounce back and forth like a nuclear bomb. And if you fill that thing up with a noble gas, it's going to create a plasma. And that plasma will amplify the effects. The plasma will amplify the effects. Wow. And yes, I don't know that xenon, like I think he's being coy about which materials and all of this for the most part. My guess is that he had to be very careful about the numbers and the materials that he mentioned here, which is why he talks about a specific polymer. The United States government probably has a polymer that's optimized for all of this stuff. So then it says, in summary, this transmedium craft alters the local vacuum energy density in the vicinity of the electrified vibrating skin, thus modifying the local space-time fabric at a microscopic discrete quantum level. This foundational concept brings to life the profound statement by John Archibald Wheeler. John Archibald Wheeler, the guy that coined the phrase wormhole. Can't make this shit up, chat. John Archibald Wheeler, who helped develop the hydrogen bomb. John Archibald Wheeler, who coined the term black hole. That's who John Archibald Wheeler was. What did John Archibald Wheeler say about space-time? He said, energy density, the amount of energy you have in your space-time. This energy density, the thing that changes this gravitational effect that we see, the energy density tells space-time how to fluctuate, right? If we're just stable equilibrium, we're like this. The energy density tells space-time, aka gravity, how to fluctuate. This is gravity fluctuating. And the space-time tells the energy density how to propagate. The space-time tells the energy, the matter, the substance, how to move. Tells it, how should you move? So what did we say in there? We're saying the matter, like the Earth, is what causes this gravitational effect where everything gets pulled towards the Earth. And the space-time of getting pulled towards the Earth tells the matter how to flow. All the matter should fall towards the Earth. So once again, this is not a situation where we're rewriting physics. We're reconceptualizing it. We're looking at all the same physics principles, and we're looking at it through a slightly different lens. And we're going, holy shit, energy density tells space-time how to fluctuate. Space-time tells energy density how to propagate. I love that. Put that on my tombstone, chat, when the CIA orbs me away, okay? Go ahead and put that down. Write that down for me, guys. That's going to be my tombstone. Okay. Proposed room temperature superconductor. Some of you want the math. Some of you want the numbers. We're going to get pretty close here, guys. Get ready. The special composite wire is made of a bulk insulator such as Teflon with a thin coating of a normal or poor metal, such as aluminum or PZT ceramic, with a thickness on the order of the London penetration depth, though it can be much thicker, given an externally applied magnetic field. This wire, so we already kind of read this part in the intro. Due to this abrupt change in state between the normal metal portion of the wire and the insulator section, this is analogous to an abrupt phase transition occurring along the metal insulator interface. So it turns out this metal insulator interface is the key. What is this like? What is this similar to for you guys? What do you think of when you think of a metal insulator interface? How about a Josephson junction? How about a squid? A Josephson junction is a semiconductor and an insulator and another semiconductor. And now when we look at this, this is very similar. This is what Salvatore Pais is saying. We're going to achieve superconductivity along the barrier between the insulator and our metal, our conductor. which spontaneously breaks symmetry and thereby induces superconductivity. This abrupt change in state occurs when the wire is abruptly vibrated and occurs at the boundary between the metal and the insulator. And this is really specific. He says, as various states of charged metal and non-charged matter are thrown into a state of coherent superposition. So what does this mean? This is my favorite part. How does it work? Because when you're vibrating it super fast, now those atoms are in both places at the same time. You can't tell where the insulator is and where the non-insulator is. So they're going to be like this, right? So if they're going like this, then where's the current going to flow? You've basically created a magic trick. You're vibrating it so fast that now your insulator and your conductor are switching places. They're switching places. So think about that. You go, well, how does that work then? What's going to happen? Well, what Sal's saying is this is going to induce superconductivity. It's going to force the electron to just flow freely. Flow freely. I mean, I haven't read anything like this anywhere else. Now, the expression for the London penetration depth you can see is here. So it's that given the superconducting charge carriers of mass m, where what is this? Crap, I forget all the my names here. Anyway, this is the magnetic permeability of free space. The electrons are E. So we can actually understand this equations. We have magnetic permeability, we have the mass, we have N is our number, and then Q is our charge. That's our charge. Let me see what I want to say here. Consider an experimental setup at standard room temperature and pressure where a current carrying aluminum-coated wire in a cylindrical configuration is mechanically vibrated by being struck with a non-conductive element, such as a pick. So we're gonna make our wire vibrate just like we would like a guitar string. A more effective means of vibrating a wire in tension is by using electromagnetic plucking coil located in close proximity to the wire. The coil is rapidly energized and de-energized using either DC or AC current. The magnetic flux couples with the wire, which is composed of a magnetically permeable material such as steel. In our case, the composite wire coating can be doped with ferrite, so you can have a magnetic property associated to it. So what is Sal saying right here? He's saying there's another way to do it. What we can do is we can make sure that our wire has a metal coating around it that will react to magnetism. And what we're going to do is we're going to charge up a magnet, an electromagnet. Charge up an electromagnet next to the wire. And what's this going to do? It's going to cause it to attract. They're going to either attract or repel, right? So if you charge it up and then uncharge it, decharge it, or whatever, de-energize. If you energize it and de-energize it, you're going to cause the wire to rapidly fluctuate back and forth towards the towards our electromagnetic field. So if you want to know how this is going to work, there you go. And what I started to realize when I got to this point in the paper yesterday is this is stuff that somebody can do. These are things that people can do. I mean, this is not complicated. This is pretty simple stuff here. And I think we've now got 3 different mechanisms that could be tested. You can use sound, you can use a pulsed current, and you can potentially even, this is kind of a variation on the pulsed current, but you can also use this an electromagnetic plucking coil. Now, it says here, for the composite wire, the aluminum coating can be doped with submicron ferrite, which means iron particles, so that it becomes highly responsive to the electromagnetic forces. So what he's saying is you dope it with something that's super magnetic, then the wire is going to attract much more powerfully than if it wasn't attracted to magnetism. Now, this EM method of vibration may not be conducive to room temperature superconductivity because mechanically plucking an aluminum-coated composite wire may fail the Meissner effect test for superconductivity. and not be able to expel the flux lines of the externally applied magnetic field. So he says this is one method where you might be able to do it, but it's probably going to fail. Probably not going to work. Further consider the electrically driven vibration version of this idea. So instead of us mechanically vibrating the wire, let's consider electromagnetically vibrating the wire. What would this look like? Whereby a non-illuminated coated wire is abruptly vibrated by having an electrical potential difference applied along its lead zirconate titanate coating, thus inducing wire vibration via the piezoelectric effect. Coupling of both mechanical and non-mechanical vibrations in an accelerated vibration mode subjected to rapid acceleration transients can be considered for possible amplification of system non-linearities. So right here, this is kind of evoking this idea of parametric amplification of parametric oscillations, where now we're saying, instead of doing that, let's use a piezoelectric material. Let's pulse it with current, and we're going to get an electrically induced vibration, an electrically induced vibration of the wire just from pulsing it with current, just because we put a piezoelectric material around it. Moreover, it's been shown that a micrometer-sized PCT film, this is how tiny it is, micrometer-sized film deposits can excite high vibration frequencies exceeding 100 megahertz, which would generate enough EM fluxes in an outward direction from the surface of the current-carrying composite wire. This method of vibration would be greatly conducive to superconductivity, since enablement of the Meissner effect would be possible, which would be the expelling of the magnetic fields. The current can be pulsed for maximum effect. Okay, and then let's see here. These are perfect diamagnetism, which is Meissner effect, perfect electrical conductivity, that means zero resistance, and then macroscopic quantum coherence, which is the ability of all particles in the superconductor to fall into lockstep and move in an orderly fashion. So when we're looking at superconductivity, we're also talking about like a controlled collective movement of our electrons. And this is the idea of Cooper pairs. What the hell are Cooper pairs? And yes, as somebody just pointed out, this is very similar to Bose-Einstein condensate. Because our Bose-Einstein condensate are these macro-sized quantum objects that are moving in lockstep with one another. So, in my opinion, Bose-Einstein condensates are going to be superconductive. Maybe they have to be superconductive. And that would explain why Bose-Einstein condensate, we know almost nothing about them. Okay. Now, what does this last one say? Oh, yeah. In other words, to form a giant matter wave. Hold up, chat. Pause. Let's use this one.
Balance. Creates a balance. Creates a.
God damn, chat. In order to form a matter wave, a coherent matter wave, you're telling me that this superconductivity, high temperature superconductivity, can form a coherent matter wave in plasma? Well, you know what? I know a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy. And his name is Charles Chase. And he's working on coherent matter waves. He's got a patent for it with Lockheed Martin. Coherent matter wave beam patent. You know what? I kind of have an idea on how he was able to produce a coherent matter wave beam. I'm thinking they're using superconductivity in a plasma. Superconductivity in a plasma, controlled motion of the electrons to produce a coherent matter wave beam. There it is. Says it right there. There you go, chat. Mathematical formulation. Okay, who wanted the math? Here you go. It's math time, chat. My least favorite part, but I know it now. Okay, so consider the fact that in a superconductor, an introduction of the electric field will accelerate the superconducting charge carriers, the electrons. Okay, so if we put them in an electric field, we can accelerate our electrons. This can be represented by the London theory, and here's your formalization. So J is the current density. The current density over time is equal to the number of electrons times the charge of the electron squared divided by the mass, all times the electric field. That's pretty easy to understand. Holy shit, who's actually talking right now? How did Ashton learn all this shit? I have no clue. But here you go. He's saying the current over time is going to be related to how fast the electrons are moving, how many electrons there are, and the strength of the electric current. He says, since we can write the current density as equal to the number of electrons times the charge of electrons times the velocity of the electrons, then we find out that we have dV over dt equals R times omega squared, where R omega is the vibration amplitude and omega is the angular frequency of vibration. Omega is the angular frequency of vibration, which means we can obtain this relationship, which means mass is roughly equal to the charge squared divided by omega squared. This expression indicates what? What does this mean? What does that equation mean? So we just did some substitution math here, and we just got this neat little equation. This equation indicates that if a superconducting wire is vibrated, then the superconducting charge carrier mass, the mass of the electrons, is inversely proportional to the vibration frequency squared. Holy fuck. He's saying if you vibrate the wire, you're going to get mass reduction. You're going to get weight reduction. You're getting anti-gravity. Mass reduction is anti-gravity. So he's saying the faster you vibrate the wire, the more mass reduction you're going to get. Wow. That's what the math shows right there. That's what M equals charge squared divided by omega squared means. The bigger omega gets in this equation, the lower the number for M gets. It's really that simple. This is why I can't quite understand. How did people not understand Sal's paper? I'm a healthcare IT consultant that's only been doing this for 2 years. And I can read this and I can understand it. Unless you believe that there's a math problem here, that somehow you did the math wrong, which I don't see where that is happening, then this is just an undeniable fact. The math doesn't lie. There it is. Now it says, thus, as vibration frequency is increased, the mass of the superconducting carriers will decrease, which means that the electron transport through the ion lattice is facilitated to a very high degree as the wire is accelerated in vibration. It can be argued that for high vibrational frequencies, this is analogous to zero electrical resistance. Wow. He's saying, okay, remember, where is my MS Paint? Time to go back to MS Paint chat. Here's our MS Paint. He's saying, what is really happening? Are these electrons shooting through the highway, shooting through the gaps? No, there's no way that these electrons are just shooting perfectly through the gaps. Eventually, you're going to run into an ion, right? The ions are not perfectly spaced apart. They're not perfectly spaced apart. So there's no way the electrons could be shooting right through the gaps like perfectly the whole time. What he's saying instead is that when you're vibrating the wire, what's happening? The mass of the electron itself is reducing. This is why you're achieving superconductivity. Now, imagine from a conceptual viewpoint that these little electrons are getting smaller. They're shrinking. From a physics perspective, that's what he's saying is happening. They're shrinking. And when they shrink, they can slip through the cracks even easier. And eventually they shrink to a point where they're just moving freely. They're just never hitting anything ever. The same way where, you know, most of the atoms in this can are empty space, but my hand can't go through it. But if I have a mass reduction effect, now all of a sudden my hand's going to be able to go right through this can. Right through that can. Delicious, by the way, Mountain Dew. Delicious. Okay, so let me just read that one more time because I just think this is such a huge revelation. The expression indicates that when the superconducting wire is vibrated, then the charge carrying mass is inversely proportional to the vibration frequency squared. Thus, the vibration frequency is increased, the mass of the superconducting carriers, the electrons, will decrease, which means that the electron transport through the ion lattice, as we see here, is facilitated to a high degree. This can be argued that this is analogous to zero electrical resistance. Wow. How do you shrink the electron? I mean, are you kidding? I literally just told you. I'm going to have to get the Zoolander thing up here because, like, literally, 5 seconds ago, I just told you. How do you shrink the electron? You vibrate the wire. The higher you vibrate the wire, the more mass reduction you're going to get from your electron. That's the answer. Okay. I'm honestly surprised they let this paper stay out here. It was only a matter of time before people started figuring it out. Now, furthermore, there's more math. Now, let's combine equation 2 with Faraday's law for the curl of the electric field. The curl of the electric field is equal to the changing magnetic field over time, right? That's what this means. How can I even know this? I don't know what's wrong with me, chat. I might be getting alien downloads. Maybe. Can't rule it out. So now what we can do is we can obtain this equation. We can say the mass divided by the number times the charge squared times the curl of the curl of the current plus the magnetic field equals 0. So taking into this account, we can argue that the diamagnetism exhibited by the superconductor is also enhanced with the increasing frequency of the wire vibration. So in other words, the magnetic flux which the superconductor generates in order to expel the magnetic field lines is inversely proportional to the vibrational frequency. Namely, you need a smaller generated flux to combat the applied magnetic field with increased vibration. So what the big factor here is this. If you look at this equation, whatever you see here on the left, this must be equal to B, the magnetic field. So this equation over here on the left must be equal to B so that they both add up to 0. So whatever B is, let's say it's 10, right? Then this must be minus 10. That's what it must calculate to, right? Because at the end of the day, they have to add up to 0. Well, then what does that mean? That means if we increase our frequency, then we oh crap, what did I say? Okay. Oh, this increases the diamagnetism. So basically what this is doing now is when we increase our frequency, our wire that was a normal wire is now achieving superconductive properties. It might have the Meissner effect where it expels magnetic fields all of a sudden. So we're inducing the physical effects of superconductivity from simple mathematical equations right here, from just vibrating the wire. So it says, thus, the first two requirements for superconductivity, namely zero resistance and the Meissner effect, expelling the magnetic fields, are met by the accelerated vibration of the wire, which exhibits a voltage potential difference along it while you're pulsing it with the current. The third requirement is macroscopic quantum coherence. Okay. So we need to get everything aligned. Everything needs to start marching in lockstep. Now, how is this accomplished? How is the third requirement for superconductivity accomplished? Let's read. So, as the current courses along the wire, the lattice ionic vibrations will create an attractive force between the electrons, which normally want to repel each other. Thus, the electron pairs named Cooper pairs will be formed, which will subsequently condense into a single quantum mechanical state. This is crazy. This is literally condensed charge research. This is literally Ken Shoulders. This is literally Ken Shoulders and Hal Puthoff. When they were talking about why, when they make their plasmoids, why do the electrons group together when they should be repelling? Ding, 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 ding. Right there. Right there. He's saying that this effect that we're causing via superconductivity is actually causing the electrons to attract when normally they would be repelling one another. Thus, electron pairs named Cooper pairs will be formed, which will condense into this solid state. And if you keep this, if you just keep doing this, then what's going to happen? Just like with the clapping, everything's going to fall into phase. Everything spontaneous, what is it called? Spontaneous matching, or God, what is it called? Chat, help me out. What's the phenomenon called where all the waves just start to sync up together? That's what you're going to see happen. So it's not just going to happen with 2 electrons. You're not going to have just 2 electrons pair up. All the electrons are going to pair up. All the electrons, thank you, are going to synchronize. All the electrons are going to synchronize and attract together. So you're going to get a blob of electrons all stuck in a quantum macroscopic state. In my opinion, this can only be done in plasma. You have to have a plasma to pull this off, in my opinion. Could be wrong, but that's my current opinion. Okay, now listen to this, chat. And this will be represented by a unique wave function. So these Cooper pairs are going to condense into a single quantum mechanical state represented by a unique wave function. This is equivalent with macroscopic quantum coherence and can be further exemplified by the creation of the supercurrent in the gap material of a Josephson junction. Wow. There it is, chat. So if this doesn't make a lot of conceptual sense to you, hold on. We have an example that he gives here. I think it's down here in a little bit. In our case, under room temperature conditions, the thermal agitations, the thermal fluctuations induced lattice vibrations will couple with the artificially induced vibrations of the lattice ions produced by the acceleration to generate a virtual soup of fluctuations, a highly nonlinear, far from equilibrium environment in the wire. What he's saying here is you're going to create a non-equilibrium plasma. You're going to create a non-equilibrium plasma. And what is a non-equilibrium plasma? All it is separating a whole bunch of negative charges from a whole bunch of positive charges. We got a whole bunch of negative charges over here, a whole bunch of positive charges over here. Well, what's going to happen? What do you guys think is going to happen if I put a whole bunch of negative charges over here and a whole bunch of positive charges over here? Oh, that's electricity. That's what electricity is. So if you create a highly non-equilibrium system, you are literally generating electricity. Because these things want to come together, you're going to get a current going between them. Just like in any electrical system, any electrical circuit. It is a well-known facet of quantum field theory that everything can be described in quantum mechanical terms. Everything can be. Again, everything is waves. The complex interactions between a physical system and its surrounding environment disrupt the quantum mechanical nature of the system and render it classic. This process is known as decoherence. Wow. What is he saying right here? He's saying that everything we see around us is decohered. When we see something physical like this this is decoherence. Decoherence. If I want to make it coherent, then that would be like our quantum mechanical state where everything is grouped together, right? When everything is grouped together, that's coherent. Decoherent is when that all falls apart. When that all falls apart, crashes back down. Now we're back to decoherence. This is important because I've been saying this the opposite way. So now we understand that when decoherence would be equivalent to the wave function collapsing. Decoherence would be equivalent to the wave function collapsing in a double slit experiment where we get our 2 slits. That would be our decoherence. Our coherence would be our wave pattern. Our wave pattern. That would be where we've created a situation where our object could be anywhere, where we have this coherent action occurring. However, it is argued that we can delay the decoherence, possibly even suppress it, by accelerated spin or accelerated vibration. This may be the very condition to achieve a state of macroscopic quantum coherence. Wow. The idea of being that we never let the system achieve equilibrium. So here's the thing. Just imagine this. This is like super easy to understand. Our equilibrium, our 0-point energy equilibrium is a calm ocean. It's a calm ocean. It's flat, right? There's no waves on it. It's perfectly flat ocean. Just like if you were to go out to the ocean or go out to the lake and there's no waves on the surface of the ocean. Sal's saying, if you want to create a state where the wave function can't collapse, then all you need to do is make that surface of that ocean constantly just shaking like crazy. If you make the surface of that ocean just shaking like crazy, so the waves are just going up and down like crazy, then it can't fall back into its equilibrium state. Because the positive and negative charges are just flying around too fast. They can't come back together. The positive and negative charges can't come back together. Now you've created an asymmetrical system. You've created a system where the positive and negative charges are separated from one another and they're staying separated from one another. Why? Because we keep vibrating it so fast. They just can't come back together. And yes, whoever just said bee wings, bugs are definitely 100% using this. This is why bugs can fly. Why can bugs fly? The vibration of the bugs is using this exact same phenomenon. Right? Isn't that the answer? The bugs are vibrating at a resonant frequency that's doing the same thing as what we're doing with this wire. When I read that, you guys are coming to the same conclusions that I'm coming to right now from reading this. And you just go, holy shit, that dude that was talking about those like beetle shells or whatever, anti-gravity, he was on to something. He was on to something real. Okay, we're having a lot of Yahtzee moments. So I hope you guys are enjoying this so far. Okay, next thing. The system may violently react by generating anomalous emergent phenomenon, such as room temperature superconductivity. So what he's saying here is that one of the physical processes of this massive vibration of messing up the lake of the ocean of energy is superconductivity. Superconductivity just comes right out of it. Now enter the Prigogine effect. As described on reference 11 on page 316, the Prigogine effect, it teaches us that under three conditions, a chaotic system, aka the super fluctuations that we've created, can self-organize. Order from chaos. Equivalent to macroscopic quantum coherence. What he's saying is that when we do this, we can create a macroscopic quantum effect. And that macroscopic quantum effect is functionally order developing from chaos. Spontaneous alignment occurring from chaos. So we mess our system up so badly that it gets confused. We're confusing our system, and now our system doesn't know what to do. It says, you know what? Just let those electrons go flying free. Let them go flying free. These conditions are the existence of a highly nonlinear medium, aka our positive and negative charges separated in our plasma. Our nonlinear medium is our non-equilibrium plasma. It's our non-equilibrium plasma. It's our separation of positive and minus charges. And last but not least, an energy flux to maintain this process of self-organization. All three of these conditions are met in our current application. Thus, it can be argued that a path towards room temperature superconductivity is herein established and possibly enabled. Guys, if you are reading this and you are watching this live stream and you still think that Sal is just making this up, you need to get your head checked. How do you think somebody would make any of this up? There's no way. He had to have seen these effects, seen these physical processes in weapons, experiments, whatever they're doing with the Navy. Had to have. It may be possible that the key to superconductivity is the enablement of local macroscopic quantum coherence. Wow. Namely, the ability of a macro object, a large object, to act as if it's quantum mechanical in nature, exhibiting such phenomenon as superposition, entanglement, and tunneling, quantum tunneling. ER equals EPR, chat. ER equals EPR. What is a wormhole? Quantum entanglement. How do we teleport through our wormhole? Quantum tunneling. Of course they're the same thing. Of course they're the same thing. In summary, one can argue that the synthesis of three physical mechanisms, mainly the Meissner effect, the Cooper effect, and the Prigogine effect, leads directly to the possibility of a room temperature superconductor, at least in the special composite metal wire. Therefore, it can be argued that the room temperature superconductor current may be generated along the boundary between the metal and the insulator. Okay. And then he says, to enforce our argument from an experimental perspective, there's a recent paper, citation number 12, shows that by exciting a metallic potassium doped carbon 60 with mid-infrared optical pulses, which is just light, right? We induce a large increase in carrier mobility. So what is he saying? Carrier mobility would be how the electrons are moving. This is what Sal was saying up above. He says if we vibrate our lattice, our electrons are going to be able to move freer and freer, easier and easier. The more we vibrate, the faster we vibrate, the faster and easier those electrons are going to move. Accompanied by the opening gap of the conductivity, thus showing the importance of non-equilibrium phenomenon in high temperature superconductivity. So, even though this fullerene is not a normal or poor metal, the pulsed light induced high temperature superconductivity, and it's shown to be a direct result of driving the non-equilibrium dynamics, which our argument considers as essential for room temperature superconductivity. Experimentally, we may replace the normal metal portion of the wire with graphene and observe under what conditions, if at all, room temperature superconductivity is obtained. Whoa. Why is he mentioning graphene all of a sudden? Well, we know why. We know why because of Paul Thibodeau. Graphene, the electrons move extremely fast. The drift velocity of electrons is several orders of magnitude higher in graphene. So if I were to say, what would be the best metal, what would be the best thing to coat your insulator in? I would probably say something that has a high drift velocity. And what did we learn from Paul Thibodeau? And I think it was and Richard Bandurek, I think, talked about this as well. The drift velocity, the faster the electrons are going, the more relativity that we're dealing with. So imagine for a second that I'm moving in this direction at the speed of light. Okay, I'm moving at this direction, the speed of light. And someone over here is looking at me. They're looking at me and they're watching me. If that person is standing still, it'll look like I'm moving at the speed of light or whatever speed I'm moving at. But what if the person who's looking at me is moving in the other direction? What if I'm moving this way at the speed of light and they're moving this way at the same time? What if we're moving in opposite directions? From the perspective of the person looking at me, it's going to look like I'm moving at the speed of light plus their speed as well. Right? That's how relativity works. That's also true of the electrons. That's also true of the electrons. So the faster your electrons are moving, and potentially in opposite directions, then we can start messing around with relativity. And this is what Paul Thibodeau and some of these other guys are saying. In fact, I think it was Richard Bandurek who was explaining that, because Paul Thibodeau in his circuit design, he said it only works if the two circuits are moving in opposite directions that are next to each other. It needs to be in a vortex like this. Why? Because the electrons are moving this direction over here and they're moving this direction over here. They're moving in opposite directions of one another. Boom. Boom. Because we have to take into account general relativity. Even for this tiny little electron, even that electron experiences time dilation and general relativity. Whew. Okay, we're almost, we're getting to the end here, guys. This went a little longer than I thought. We may have to push the Hal Puthoff. I didn't think this was going to go this long. Okay. In another order of ideas, if we consider a ubiquitous equation, E equals mc squared, where E is the total energy of the object and mass times the speed of light in free space, now we can couple this relationship with Maxwell. Link Maxwell's equations to Einstein. That's what we're doing here, right? E equals mc squared. Mix it with Maxwell's equations, and look at what we get here. Look at what we get right here, where c squared equals 1 divided by the permittivity times the permeability, such that the permittivity or the permeability are of the vacuum and non-vacuum permeabilities, and omega and omega is mu naught and omega naught. Wait, no, mu and shit, I forget my Greek letters all of a sudden. These are the permeabilities and electric permittivities of our mediums. Okay. So given the fact that the magnitude of the Poynting vector is equivalent to the electric and magnetic field strength being combined, and further taking into consideration that the Poynting vector, you know, our directional thing here, is directly proportional to the angular spin and the frequency omega, now we can create this equation. Look at this. Mass divided by total energy is roughly equivalent to 1 divided by omega squared, which reinforces what we were talking about before. The higher omega squared gets, the lower mass is going to get. The higher we make this number on the right, omega squared, the lower the total of the mass is going to be on the left, because this is 1 divided by omega squared. So that reinforces our previous math. What I love about this is because what this is saying here is that if we take general relativity, E equals mc squared, we combine it with Maxwell's equations for electric permittivity and magnetic permeability, then what do we get out of it? The same exact result. The more we increase the angular frequency, the vibration, the more mass reduction we're going to see. Math just says it right there. Since the numerator of equation number 5, which is m divided by ET here, is the total electromagnetic energy density, the stored in the locality of the object m squared, and the denominator is the total electromagnetic energy flux out of the locality of the object squared, then Einstein's famous equation for electromagnetic mass takes on a very special representation of the object's total mass as a relation to the nonlinear flux of the electromagnetic energy stored in the object's locality. So what he's saying here is that the mass of your plasma is going to be related to how much energy has been stored in the plasma. And how much energy can we store in our plasma? Let's go back up a second. How much energy can we store in our superconductive plasma, chat? Where did it say? Where was that 10 to the minus 10 to the 4? Somewhere up here. Somewhere up here. If I don't find it, I'll just say it, but I wanted to point it out. Somewhere up here, it says we can store our Q factor. Well, that was Q. Here it is. Remember, here it is. The parameter can be written as the energy stored divided by energy lost. And the ratio is in the range of 10 to the 4 to 10 to the 9. And if you use a YBCO superconductor, like Ning Li and Paklanov did, then you're looking at 10 to the 9. So now going back down to where we were at before in our equations, where are we at? Down here. Yeah. We're saying that the mass of the object is going to be related to how much of that energy is stored in the object's spatio-temporal locality. That's just a magic. That's just a fancy way of saying how much energy is being stored in our ball of plasma. So we're storing exactly 10 to the 9. So those balls of plasma, those are literally balls of lightning, chat. Those are literally balls of lightning. 10 quintillion. 10 quintillion. So when people want to wonder, how are these balls of energy able to manipulate space-time? We need these huge energy densities. Well, it turns out these superconductive states that we can induce have massive energy storage potential. Almost unimaginable. Massive energy storage potential. So now we understand, okay, now we've got 3 super dense balls of energy. And we're going to go ahead and we are going to make those balls of energy converge. Well, I know what's going to happen. Those balls of energy are going to converge, and that energy is going to amplify like crazy. So you're starting with something where you have 10 to the 9, and then you're bringing them together where the math shows that as the distance comes together, the energy goes up exponentially. The force goes up exponentially. Boom. Okay. Now, getting to the end here, just maybe 2 more pages. Now, this is going to explain it conceptually here. Okay. So electron pairing is the sauce here. Electron pairing is a cornerstone of this. And we assume that this pairing is happening between the electrons and the lattice vibrations. Arguably, given the fact that a superconducting condensate is an electrically charged superfluid, like our plasma, and that the foundational structure of the cosmos is also a superfluid, the ether, it may be possible to render ordinary matter superconducting via electromagnetic manipulation. I mean, I think we just showed that that's definitely the case. Moreover, it may be possible that the electron pairing mechanism is not caused by electron-phonon coupling, but instead by electron-electron coupling, which does not use phonon mediation to induce attraction between electrons. So what he's saying here is that it may be that the electrons are naturally coming together, and it's not that we are causing these electrons to pair by changing the lattice structure. Maybe there's something else that's explaining it. So let's think about this conceptually. Okay, well, where is it? Let's see. I think he says down here. Okay, it is herein argued that in order to generate and amplify both nonlinear electron-phonon interactions and spin fluctuations in superconducting solids at room temperatures, we must produce strong electron lattice interactions, which may be achieved by abrupt vibration in the wire. We already mentioned that. Let's consider the preferred embodiment of the inventive concept. Namely, our wire is composed of an insulator core overlaid with our thin metal. Okay. Okay, we already mentioned all this. Where is it? It also says it's important that we have to polarize our metal beforehand. When we talk about polarizing it, we're basically applying a magnetic field so that everything lines up. We want everything to line up in our metal. As long as everything's lined up in our metal, then we're going to get very powerful interactions. If we don't get everything to line up, then we're not going to get very powerful interactions, right? Okay, where do I want to skip ahead to the part where he explains this? Okay, here we go. Here's a different embodiment of this. There's 2 different embodiments of it. One option is to sandwich the ceramic between 2 layers of aluminum, resulting in a wire design which may be planar rather than cylindrical in nature. Why do I bring this up? So he's saying there's another way to do this. You don't necessarily need to have a cylindrical wire that you've coated in metal. You can do this like a pancake. You can put a layer, you can put an insulator, and then you can put another layer on top. Well, holy shit, that's literally a Josephson junction. That is literally a Josephson junction. And now we're not talking about wires anymore. Now we're talking about microchips. Now we're talking about microchips. When we're talking about layering things on top of each other, this is microchip design, guys. So now Salvatore Pais has jumped into explaining that this can be used to make a superconducting microchip as well, using the very similar concepts. This composite coating design would amplify piezoelectric-induced vibrations and possibly render them unidirectional. So we can potentially get a force out of this as well. a directional force. So there's another embodiment of this concept, which depicts a wire coating made from aluminum. A helical coil is wound around the composite. So here's another option. You can wind this coil around our wire. While current is being pulsed through the wire, as well as through the coil at different frequencies. So we can pump a current through the wire and pump a current through the coil at different frequencies. This excites highly nonlinear motions of vibration in the wire, thereby amplifying the spin. So there's another different way that we could potentially do this. We say, oh, I'm going to pulse the wire at one frequency, and I'm going to pulse this coil around the wire at a different frequency. And you're going to see these extremely powerful nonlinear interactions. The helical coil can be made from the same material as the special composite metal wire. It can also become a room temperature superconductor too. So you're saying the coil can also become superconductive because we're going to pulse the current through the coil, and the same thing can happen to the wire. Or to the coil that happens to the wire. Let's see. Considering a classical Newtonian second law expression using Lorentz magnetic force, we can relate the vibrating mass with its vibrating charge, and that mass becomes directly proportional to the square ratio of Q divided by omega. Right? Therefore, it can be observed that the value of the critical superconducting temperature can be directly proportional with the square of the vibrational frequency of the ionic mass. So what he's saying here is that the more you vibrate your mass, your wire, the temperature in which superconductivity can occur goes up significantly. So he's saying, how do you achieve superconductivity? You vibrate your wire. Vibrating your wire will allow the critical temperature for superconductivity to go up. This honestly throws all of the LK99 stuff into question for me. Because now I'm realizing, what the hell were we doing with LK99? Like, maybe we can make LK99 a superconductor, but there's an easier way to do it. Literally just vibrate your wire. Literally just vibrate the lattice. That's it. Vibrate the space juice. Vibrate the space juice, chat. Okay. I think okay, here we go. This is what I want to say. I'm going to go to this explanation now, and then we'll go back and read the rest of the conclusion, and then we'll be good with this. So this is how you want to conceptually imagine this. Imagine that there's an electron in our lattice structure. Let me go ahead and show the our thing here. So here's our lattice structure once again, and we've got our electrons that are shooting through it. And we've got our leading electron, okay? We're going to have our red electron. So our red electron is shooting through this gap here, right? And it gets out here to the end. It gets to the backside, okay? Gets to that backside. As the front electron approaches the gap between the two ions, since the electron's speed is determined by the pulse current, the front electron is fast enough to get through the gap without colliding. So this first electron can fly through the gap, gets through the gap without any problem. Okay, cool. Then what happens? However, as the two lattice ions approach each other via letting the front electron through, an enhanced positive charge region is formed between them. So when the electron comes through here, these ions squeeze together a little bit. They squeeze together a little bit. So let me represent that for you guys on my beautiful. Anyone that says that this is not beautiful, just get out. Get out right now if you don't think this is beautiful. Don't hate me because I'm beautiful. So when the electron gets through them, these, boy, why is this so thick? Thickness. Okay, there we go. These are going to start coming together. These are going to squeeze together. These ions are going to squeeze together just a little bit. So what happens, though, when they squeeze together a little bit? What's going to occur? Well, what does it say? It is this enhanced positive charge region which decelerates the front electron while accelerating the rear electron. Wow. Okay. So what he's saying here is that this electron that got through, now it's going to feel a backwards force because we've created this positive charge region because these two ions squeeze together a little bit. So this electron that was moving super fast is now going to get pulled backwards a little bit, and it's going to slow down. It's going to slow down a little bit. The first electron is going to slow down. And then it says, decelerates the front electron while accelerating the rear electron towards it. So now there's this electron number 2 is coming in now. So now electron number 2 rolls up. I'll use orange for electron number 2. Let me go ahead and make this circle. We've got electron 2 coming through here now. So electron 2 is flying through, and electron 2 gets to this point, and it's getting accelerated towards this positive region. This positive region in here, it's going to get accelerated towards this because there's more positive here and the electron is negatively charged. So the first electron gets slowed down and the second electron gets sped up. What's that going to do? Oh, those electrons are going to come together. Those electrons are going to line up. Those electrons are going to start marching in sequence. So one electron slows down, one electron speeds up. Cooper pairs, superconductivity. There you go. There's your answer right there. He says, along this line of thought, oh, wait, hold on. As the two electrons approach each other, they pair up. However, at much higher energies than Cooper pair formation, 10 to the minus 3 EVs. I'll keep this up. Along this line of thought, the condition for the vibrational energy to exceed the thermal energy and thus ensure that the quantum coherence timescale is far higher than the decoherence timescale can be represented as H times omega greater than KT. So now what he's saying is he's making another claim here. Now what Sal is saying is that if we vibrate our wire, our lattice, fast enough, then we can overcome this, as long as the vibrational energy exceeds the thermal energy, then we can prevent decoherence. We can prevent decoherence. We can maintain a quantum coherent state, superconductivity, superfluidity. We can maintain this state where we have our charges separated. Oh, I'm not sharing the thing. Here it is. Where H star is Planck's constant divided by 2 pi and omega is the wire vibration frequency. However, a threshold on the order of 1 terahertz is extremely difficult to obtain by vibrating the wire, unless we count for acceleration of vibration, in which this case the characteristic vibration can be written as this equation. And then it says, which is a simple harmonic motion. So in other words, by accelerating in vibration and or spin, we can obtain the vibration spin amplification effect. Moreover, the acceleration of electrons through the wire can be achieved by pulsing the current at the resonant frequency FP for an LC operator. So who asked? What was the math? You had to wait this whole time, 2 hours to get it? There it is. What is the resonant frequency? The resonant frequency is equal to 1/2 pi times the inductance times the capacitance, the square root of the inductance times the capacitance. That's what this means right here. Literally, plug and play the numbers in, get your resonant frequency, pulse it at your resonant frequency. Booyah. Booyah. There you go, chat. There you go. Okay, so let's just go back up to this top paragraph here. Oh, yeah, so this was just telling us how to explain. I kind of already explained the wire lattice and that whole thing. So it says, this means that the most important functions of the lattice ions themselves induced by the wire vibration. Oh, it is important to realize that for higher frequencies of wire vibration, the thermal energy given by the Boltzmann relation of E equals KT, where K is the Boltzmann constant, and temperature is far exceeded by the vibrational energy of the wire. So this is another thing that Sal brought up. The classical thermal energy runaway caps off. Caps off. But the vibrational frequency energy potentially can take off. And if your vibrational frequency energy goes over your thermal frequency energy, you potentially begin to see these effects. Okay, let's finish this bad boy up. In conclusion, of possible interest is the fact that a notice of allowance. Wait, what am I reading here? Oh, yeah. He also just says, hey, just FYI, we literally got a patent for electromagnetic field generator and method to generate an electromagnetic field, which was developed by Salvatore Pais. The developed technology can lead to the enablement of macroscopic quantum coherence. Boom. The engineering of macroscopic states to behave as if quantum mechanical in nature, enabling superposition, entanglement, tunneling, and teleportation. Boom, baby. Boom. Right there. Right there. Teleportation. Right there. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Love it. This gives rise to emerging technology breakthroughs in controlled plasma dynamics for hypersonics research, advanced electronic warfare, tactical high energy lasers, wireless power transmission, advanced field propulsion, aka transmedium craft, high temperature superconductors, quantum technologies such as spintronics, magnonics. I don't even know what the hell that one means. Something related to magnetism. Quantum computing, neuromorphic resonance computing, aka AGI, aka sentient AI, and quantum sensing. Quantum radar, quantum sonar. This shit right here, this quantum sensing, this is Hal Puthoff's patent. This is the Dark Knight. This is the Dark Knight Rises or whatever, or no, just the Dark Knight, where you're just basically seeing everything all the time. Furthermore, this technology has national security importance in leading to the generation of thermonuclear fusion ignition energy with commercial as well as military application potential in ensuring national energy dominance. Let's go, chat. Salvatore Pais interview on Sunday. It is going to be straight up fire. We don't even need to look at the second paper tonight because we just learned everything we needed to learn about the about inertial mass reduction and how to achieve a gravitational wave using superconductivity. And we learned how to obtain high temperature, room temperature superconductivity. Is just as simple as vibration. It's just vibration, chat. Okay, we're not going to have time to do the Hal Puthoff thing tonight because this live stream went super far. I want to thank Rumble in the Pilled chat. Thank you, Matt, for the cookie in the Pilled chat. Thank you, Raising Cane, for the gold pills. I love it. Thank you, guys. Rumble chat. Thank you guys for popping off. You guys have been going crazy in the Rumble chat recently. I love it. Let me do these donations. Timothy Foster, we hit you up earlier. Thank you very much. Zapparoo, thank you for being out there. Thank you for following Zapparoo. Appreciate you, man. Mick Leonard, thank you for being there, brother. Never dull, best physics class on the internet. Truth or bust. Exactly. Donna, nice to see you, Donna. Thank you for those pounds. Space and time are lovers who never quite meet, but their longing is the very fabric of existence. LFG. I love it. Thank you very much. XDM Byron Keats, I appreciate you. I might need to start an OnlyFans here, guys. Is anyone else getting hot in here? Anyone else getting hot in here, chat? Levy, I thank you very much for that donation. I think they got the idea for coherent matter wave beam from phonon vibrations that produce condensate for superconductivity. They 100% did, because Charles Chase in his in fact, I'll just play the clip. We've got a minute. We can play this here. He literally talks about the fact that you can imagine that a matter wave beam should be possible. And he references general relativity. He says from a different reference frame that particle is a wave. He says so. And when we're talking about different reference frames, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about vibrating the lattice. We're vibrating the lattice so fast that we're doing the same thing where if two people are running in opposite directions looking at each other at high speeds. We're doing the same thing when we're vibrating the lattice. It's the same analogy. And so Charles Chase just took general relativity and he's like, oh yeah, we should be able to like vibrate this and make this become a matter wave beam. In fact, that's exactly what the coherent matter wave beam is doing. It's a resonant cavity. It's resonating. It's getting everything aligned. So you just vibrate everything, and then what comes out the other side? Order. A marching line. A matter wave beam. So let's play the clip so you guys can understand that. Because now that we've gone through this, now we know how the coherent matter wave beam is working. Here it is.
Thing, my colleague, Dr. Mo Arman, and myself, is really Mo's idea, but I helped him with that. This is a way of generating matter wave beams. So rather than a laser beam, it's a matter beam with fermions, and we're using a Harnaff.
I mean, shit, chat. Just look at the top right. Coupled resonant cavities, right? The coupled resonant cavities. You see, look at this shit right up here at the top. This is what Sal's talking about. This is what Sal's talking about, high temperature superconductor. They don't even mention this is causing superconductivity. You can even see their coherence thing right there. Look at the coherence that it creates. Little peak. That's the coherence that Sal's talking about right here. Charles Chase, bro. Charles Chase, you know. Charles Chase fucking knows about this shit, chat. Get Charles Chase in front of Congress. We'll let Charles Chase can have amnesty. We'll let Charles Chase have amnesty. Nobody else gets amnesty. Charles Chase, if you testify in front of Congress, you can have amnesty because there ain't no doubt whatsoever this guy knows.
Bomb effect to put things, fermions in coherence, which sounds like, wow, that doesn't sound like that would work. Because there's put
the fermions in coherence. You mean like literally the thing that Sal Pais just said? Getting your electrons in coherence using superconductivity? Yep, the exact same thing.
Modify the fermions with no energy exchange. And so we predict that we'll be able to put those in coherent and generate a beam. And people have done those with Bose-Einstein condensates, at very low temperature. But using one of those constraints, Lorentz invariance, well, that fermion condensate is a beam in a different reference frame. So in my mind, that shows you can build a beam out of fermions, a million times more powerful than a laser, plus atomic scale manufacturing and maybe transport of matter over a distance.
Shit. That guy's literally working on a Star Trek replicator right now. He's working on atomic scale manufacturing right now. And yes, Charles Chase was in charge. Charles Chase was the lead of the Revolutionary Technologies Division of the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. He literally built a compact fusion reactor for Lockheed Martin that went dark in 2018. So yes, Charles Chase knows all about plasma orbs. Literally their compact fusion reactor used field reverse configuration. In fact, we're probably looking at it. It was probably built even before it was publicly available, but we may never know. Okay, let me finish these last donations. Once you have superconductivity, what happens if you have a negative energy density around it? A negative energy density around it is just a reduction of the standard energy density, right? So you're really just saying what direction is your force going to be? You're either going to get pulled or you're going to get pushed. That's how you should be thinking of negative energy. Is it a pull or is it a push force? I think it's just that simple. And then vibrating the wire also produces a superconductive condensate from the electrons on the surface of the metal of the wire. Now imagine it's a plasma. If it was a plasma, what's going to happen? Your electrons are going to cluster. Your electrons are going to cluster together within your bubble of plasma. That will be the equivalent. And what do we see in the MH370 video? We see a very distinguished yellow bubble within inside of our plasma ball. What do I think that is? I think that's the electrons. That's the electrons that have been grouped together in this quantum coherence. The electrons are grouping together because the system of superconductivity they've developed forces them to line up, forces them to group up, just like Sal said. Dreadmax says, thanks for making science understandable. You are welcome, my friend. You are absolutely welcome. That's what I'm here for. And then another donation is all about equal and opposite so that the vortex motion cancels the transverse waves. It's all about equal and opposite. This is what Paul Thibodeau said. Paul Thibodeau said that the circuit only worked when the electrons were moving like this, opposite directions. If they were moving in the same direction, even though they're not connected, but just next to each other, moving in the same direction, the system doesn't work anymore. Think about that. Why? Isn't that a weird thing? Well, now we know why. It's just relativity. This electron's moving this way. This electron's moving this way. Now they're causing this from an apparent perspective of each of them. They're moving faster than they were before. They're moving faster than they were before. Drakes89 says, thanks for putting me in the game. Tuned in late. This is the sauce. It's absolutely the sauce. So the name of this scientific paper, as somebody just asked for in the chat, I don't know if you can actually find this. It's room temperature superconducting system for use on a hybrid aerospace undersea craft. I've made this paper available in the Discord. I'll put a link to the Discord here when we close out. So if you want to check out that paper, you can have access to it. I will also post probably some excerpts from it on my social media tomorrow so that we can be prepared for the Salvatore Pais interview, because we obviously have some questions that we need to ask him a few things now based on this, right, guys? Make sure you guys are there on Sunday, 3:33 p.m. Eastern time. Hard Truths, number 4 with Salvatore Pais. We're going to be talking about nukes, superconductivity. We're going to be talking about, anti-gravity, gravitational modification. And we're also going to be talking about AI for sure. We're going to be talking about AI and consciousness and quantum computers. We're going to talk about quantum entanglement and wormholes. We're going to hit everything. 3:33 p.m. Eastern time. The video is currently up, or the link to the live stream is already up. You can go ahead and mark it, hit the bell, do whatever you want to do. One last thing. Thank you guys, MH370X. Truthfully, I love you all. I would not be able to do this without you guys. You guys have made all this possible for this whole period of time. Pat yourselves on the back. You guys are just as much of a star, just as much of an expert as I am. Have a great night, guys. Catch me on Twitter. Catch me on social media. We'll see you on Sunday. Peace, bros.
In the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Coulomb forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos.